Woe to you, O earth and sea.
It's the Hop Nation
USA Podcast. It's episode 107 of the Hop Nation USA Podcast, and we're coming to you live from the North Hills Homebrew Festival here at the Serious Shrine.
Absolutely. So we must give it a little apology here on the front. If you hear a little bit of background noise, that's why, because we are, in fact, live.
That's right. If I didn't do my job right, then you hear a whole crowd of people drinking beer and having a good time. But, you know, that's fine to the point.
That's not a bad thing whatsoever.
Yes. So you already heard me. I'm Steve, and that's Adam.
Yes, of course, the other co-host, the one that's running the computer, he's running the knobs.
And everything sounds good as far as I can tell. We also have a camera crew, and we'll be filming episodes of Yin's Brewing while we do this.
Yes, so we would like to give a quick shout-out to Frank. Frank, our producer, our cameraman, our transport, maybe our legal team. We don't know how well this evening's going to go.
I don't know if he's passed the bar, but, you know, we'll give everybody a chance. He might have a briefcase. So with that said, we want to move on and introduce our first guests of the evening. We are at the North Hills Homebrew Festival, so we are talking to representatives of the North Hill Homebrew Festival. Oh, why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Brian Llewellyn.
My name's Dennis Rabel.
All right, thanks, guys. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. We appreciate you guys taking precious beer drinking time out of your evening to come talk with us.
You are carving into my drinking time.
We will make it up to you later somehow.
I have not had one beer yet today.
Not one. I mean, we've got a couple in front of us right now.
That is a bold move. But I assume that is the burden you must bear as one of the organizers of such an event.
Yes.
It's a burden he bears. I don't follow that code.
Well, because we're at the North Hill Homebrew Festival, we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to be drinking a lot of beers, not just 3 throughout the night.
Yes.
But first, we wanted to start with beers that were actually brewed by Brian. So why don't you introduce your beers for us, and we'll get underway.
The first one is called the Dude. It is a White Russian milk stout. And the second one is a key lime pie cream ale.
I actually have the Dude already. I picked it up.
Yeah, and admittedly, I already heard some rumblings about this beer, and I didn't realize you were the one that brewed this.
I am.
So, okay, we're double dipping here.
Yeah, so your outfit you actually call Tap That Pittsburgh?
Tap That Brewing?
Tap That Brewery? Okay.
Do I have time to go get that?
Sure.
It's around.
Yeah. So which one do you want to start with here, Steve?
Well, since I already grabbed the Dude,
then let's...
It's a little like carbonated. I just kegged it like 3 days ago.
That's quite all right.
That's fine. What was the ABV on this?
6.8.
6.8.
Okay.
So, I mean, looking at it, it's definitely a stout right off the bat. Ooh, nothing super remarkable as far as stouts go, because stouts all look the same.
Right, exactly. It's dark. It's the abyss. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
That actually has some Kahlua in it.
You say Kahlua?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So, admittedly, I jumped ahead a little bit, and I drank it before we went through the whole process, and I can kind of find that a little bit.
Sorry.
And I can no, don't apologize.
Don't apologize. That's us jumping a gun. I mean, I've already been drinking it. He jumped ahead. But yeah, you can definitely taste it.
Yeah, this is a fantastic beer. No doubt about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's got that nice little coffee tinge to it. Yeah. The one thing I'll say is that's something you can do with home brewing. You can't just pitch alcohol into it.
Right, you are outside the rules of the PLCB, which is nice.
It's nice. You can do it.
Because admittedly, because Steve and I entered beers for this competition as well, and my beer is a wheat beer that used a whiskey tincture. So it was a maple whiskey with pecans. So I fully understand using alcohol in your beer because we did the same thing.
We get it.
Yours might just be a little bit better.
No rules in home brewing.
That's right.
Yeah, this is pretty good beer. I'm enjoying it. I think we're going to wait maybe till the end of the segment, and we'll do the key lime.
Yes.
And we'll finish the key lime at the end of the segment.
Yeah, and that's definitely one that I want to check out. And I believe there is more than one key lime beer here.
There is. I think there's a key lime sour.
Yes. So, I am a huge fan of key lime pie. So I'm in hog heaven right now. I got Kahlua beers. I've got key lime beers. I'm good. And I got somebody driving me home, so I'm even better.
Hey, safety first.
That's right.
Safety first. Everything's good. So, with that said, why don't we get a little more into Brian and Dennis? Why don't you guys tell us about how you started getting involved with the event here and with the Shriners?
Well, we started this is our third year, and we were always looking for some sort of fundraising idea, and we would do comedy nights. We
Golf
had
outings.
golf
Night
outings,
of the
purse
races.
batches, things like that. And I was already homebrewing and going to homebrewing events. I said, this is where it's at. It's a really fun event. I think we should hop on the bandwagon and do one of our own. And our first one was at the German Club on the north side. Went very well. Second one was at the Masonic Center in Ross Township. Again, it grew. And here we are this year, and it's grown even more.
I must say, this is a fantastic facility for this sort of event. A nice open-air pavilion, nice and wide. There's plenty of space, because that's one thing that I've run into at other brew fests is you're packed in. You can't move around. This is a great facility because there's room. You have, you can walk around, you can converse with your friends, and you're not, you don't have people in the way. And so I really like this facility. I mean, this is top-notch.
It's funny, when we had first came up with this idea, I was wholeheartedly against it. I've been in the beer business professionally for 22 years, and my opinion of home brewers, I'm embarrassed to say, was not that good. And I'm pleased to say that I was 100% wrong about the skills of the guys that we get to come out here and make the beer for us. And part of my job is to set up all of the major beer festivals that you have here in the city. And what makes this so much different is it's not a drunk fest. It's not trying to race your way through 300 different beers to try and beat your buddies out on who can drink the most and hopefully not die. Here you actually get to experience the passion of the brewer, how he actually, can explain to you the heart and soul behind what it is he's brewing, and it's completely different. It's actually a really unique experience.
Yes,
And the fact that we have Penn Brewery roped in with us to give away the grand prize is the icing on the cake that
That's
sets
fantastic.
this event apart from all the other home brew festivals out there.
And there is, like you said, that the homebrewers, they brought the ruckus. There is such a variety here. There's so many ideas that are being thrown about here that I've never seen, never thought about. But once you see it, you just realize, oh yeah, why didn't I think of that? That's a fantastic idea.
I had a ghost pepper beer one year that was a really bad idea. I'm just going to say. It was a really bad idea.
That night and the next day.
Yeah, it was
it's-
undrinkable.
Yeah, it's twice bad.
Yeah.
Bad. But that's one of the things people don't give homebrew events credit for a lot, is that a lot of time homebrew is on the forefront of trends. Like you said, ghost pepper beer, you had that. There are drinkable ones. I've had some of them, so maybe it's just that brewer that you had it from. But, we're talking about a White Russian Imperial Stout. That's not too common out there. I think Mindful has one. There's also, key lime sours. I saw a Moscow Mule sour out there. People are inventive. They're creative, and that's what's different about homebrew events, and that's why they're fun. They're also more for people who are into the brewing culture and into beer culture. They're not for people who, like Dennis already said, to run in and get blitzed.
Right.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's kind of a change of pace from other beer events where everybody's going 10/10. It's a good, relaxing Saturday night right now.
Right.
I'll be honest. This is fantastic.
Yeah, it's a beautiful evening.
Absolutely. So, Brian, I want to ask you a little bit more. Obviously, you're a brewer. How long have you been brewing?
Well, I started making wine probably about 12 years ago, and kind of got tired of waiting for it to get ready because it takes about a year, and decided, let's get into beer, and started making kits. And that was about, I would say, 8 years ago, and it's just been a horrible hobby to get into.
It just won't go away, will it?
Yeah, it just, yeah.
No, I get that. Totally get that.
Actually participating in this event has made me want to. All right, I'm going to say this, but I can't guarantee I'll follow through with it. But giving me the idea that maybe I want to try starting to make my own beer. Now, unfortunately, though, where I work, I buy beer ridiculously cheap, so it'd be kind of crazy for me to make it when I can buy it for less. But the idea of making your own beer start to finish, I think there's a sense of pride in there.
There is.
There is.
that I might want to
Absolutely.
take a swing at.
Yeah, there is.
I would definitely recommend it.
Yeah.
Just grab some buddies, grab a beautiful
I'm gonna
Saturday
steal
afternoon.
Brian's stuff. He's got a
Right.
garage full
That
of car
works, too.
buoys and the equipment I need.
Yes.
Work on Brian's stuff. He'll let you.
Just find a Saturday where he's not home. Just sneak in. Just make it. You'll be fine.
Once you're hooked, though, you'll wind up buying your own.
Yeah. It don't end.
Yeah. Brian, another question. You've brewed obviously some inventive stuff. We're trying it out today. What is your most inventive, or what is your favorite brew that you've put out?
I've actually only brewed 2 beers more than once. Halloween, I make a habanero pumpkin stout.
Ooh, okay.
I don't think anybody's really ever heard of it. I sent it into the Award Awards, and everybody that read stuff about it, they're like, I had no idea what this beer was going to be. And once I drank it, it was like, wow.
Nice.
And didn't win, but I did score very well. And the other beer I would make more than once is a grapefruit wheat beer.
Right
Okay.
on.
Other than that, it's all, hey,
Yeah.
see what happens. And
What's inspired you?
3 days before the event, I'm trying it and hoping for the best.
That sounds all too familiar.
Yep.
Is there any methodology to what beer is going to be next, or just whatever strikes you at the
No,
time?
usually I kind of hear of, for the pumpkin beer, for example, I've heard of people in the South actually putting hot peppers in their pumpkin pie. So when I heard that, I said, oh, that would be pretty interesting. So a lot of like dessert type things or something I hear just kind of strikes a bell, and I go off and running with it.
I'm with that.
Yeah.
I'm into that. I might just also try that pumpkin pie.
Yeah, that's one of the other things I keyed in on.
Yeah.
Was just I'm just gonna put a bunch of habaneros in a pumpkin pie
Right, you got to be careful with habaneros, though.
and not tell my
Especially in
girlfriend.
beer.
No, we've brewed with Carolina Reaper. We're fine. We're up above habanero.
It's fine.
It's fine. Habanero's all right with us. All right. Well, I want to take some time and go to Brian's key lime.
Yes, absolutely.
We've got this here. Tell us a little bit more about that. Remind us.
Yeah, that's a cream ale that actually I stole the recipe from a cherry vanilla cream beer that I made, and used the same base and went with some organic graham cracker, key lime pie juice, and vanilla bean.
Right on.
I can really taste the graham cracker in that.
Oh, I haven't
Yeah,
gotten
that
to it
actually
yet.
didn't come out at first, and now that it's sitting a little bit and up the carbonation, it's coming out a little bit more.
Yeah, that actually. A lot of the time, I've had key lime pie beers, and they.
Brian, you're like the Martha Stewart of beer over here.
Just give me some Dolies, and
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
thank you.
No, I've had key lime beers in the past, and like they don't always hit the pie part. It's just
Right.
like there's a lot of key lime flavor in it. But I can taste the graham cracker in this. It actually tastes like pie.
Right, exactly. And I
Yeah.
will be going and getting more, just so
Yeah,
you know.
we'll definitely be getting more.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I want to thank Dennis and Brian for coming on. We're going to take a sort of mini break, and we're going to continue the segment with the Shriners and get their, half their side of things. Why would they allow so many brewers to come into their space?
Well, yes, thank you for coming on the show with us. We greatly
you.
appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having us.
We will be drinking more of your beer later on.
Yes.
Thank
we'll
you
see
very
out
much.
there.
Enjoy. Cheers.
Thanks. All right, welcome back. We took our short little break, but now we are back with a representative of the Syria Shrine. We are here with Bob Adelman. He is the recorder and potentate of the Syria Shrine here in Pittsburgh.
Thanks for being here. We appreciate being able to have the opportunity to host the North Hills Home Brew Fest, and having a podcast just makes it even more exciting. So we're happy to have you fellas here today. And we'd like to tell your listeners about some of the things that make the Shrine a great organization and that make our philanthropy, Shriners Hospitals for Children, a worthy cause well worth supporting.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's hear about it.
So the Shriners organization has been around since 1872. In Pittsburgh, we were founded in 1877. So we are the 8th oldest of the Shriners organizations.
Really?
And the 3rd largest of the Shriners organizations worldwide. Our local membership numbers just under 4,100. And, at one time, we had more than 26,000 Shriners in Pittsburgh, but that was a long time ago. In the days when we operated Syria Mosque in Oakland, which some folks that went to rock concerts in the 70s and 80s and into the early 90s would remember very, very well. was also the home of the Pittsburgh Symphony from the 1930s until the very early 70s when Heinz Hall opened. So that's just a little bit about the things that we have done in the community. We've been at our current location in Harmer Township since 1994. It was a great move for us to get into the suburbs. Our members found free parking to be an easier situation, and we were able to construct this magnificent pavilion that's hosting this event today. We can hold 1,000 people in this facility for picnics and other kinds of activities. We will have a wine fest here next weekend, the First Choice Wine Festival, and this is our first opportunity to host the North Hills Home Brew Fest, but we hope to be able to do this again for many years to come. So if there are folks who are listening now that have an opportunity to come out, we're very easy to find. We're in between exit 11 and exit 12 on Pennsylvania 28. If you're heading north from the city, you would get off at exit 11, cross Route 910 onto Gulf Lab Road, take that till it ends, and you're at our driveway and the entrance to the festival. If you were coming from the north and heading south, you'd get off at exit 12, and when you cross back over 28, you'll see a sign that directs you to the Shrine Center, but you'll be making a right turn onto Height Road and continue to follow the signs. Very easy to find, ample free parking here, and we still have tickets available for folks that might want to stop by.
Right on. I must say that that was one of the things that we talked about in our previous section, talking about the folks from the Brewfest itself, was that this is a fantastic facility for this sort of event. It's nice, it's wide, there's plenty of room. There's other Brewfests that we've been to where everybody's packed in, you can't move, but this is the exact opposite of that. It's nice, it's airy, it's got that outdoor feel to it. This is great. This is what a Brewfest should feel like right here.
Outdoor and covered is really important for me. I
Well,
like both of those.
that's the key, too. It is outdoors, but it is undercover. So we are impervious to rain. We've had a couple of raindrops here today, not much, but when it has rained, no one has gotten wet unless they wanted to.
Right, and that you're right. That's on them.
Let me ask you, Bob. You've been around the Brewfest today. Has there been any beers or anything that stuck out to you? Anything that you
Well, I didn't get a
particularly
chance to taste very much. I've been busy working. I did, at the end of the blind tasting, there were some things that were left over, so I did sample a couple of things then. I didn't get too adventurous at that time. They were cleaning up all around me. So I tasted an amber lager, and I tasted a Pilsner, and then there was a beer that was on the sours table that was recommended to me, and I was told at the time that it wasn't sours. It was something that was miscategorized on the tables. Tasted like a stout, and it was a little boozy, so I'm guessing it was an Imperial stout, but I quite liked it. And now I'm having a crowler, a sample of a Mexican light lager, and I forget the name of the brewer right now. His first name's Dan, and the last name begins with a Y. Maybe you know who I'm talking about. But at any rate, this is quite tasty, and so I'm happy to be sampling this. And when I get a chance, you can be sure that I will go around and taste some of the wares. Had an opportunity to sample a beer during one of our planning meetings. It was a key lime cream ale.
Yes.
And I'm not all that big on the fruity things, but I completely understood where this was coming from. All the flavors were there, and it was a pretty good beer. I am a German kid from way back, and so I tend to favor lagers. I led a group of people over to Munich during Stark Bierzeit in 2014. And for those that don't speak German, Stark Bierzeit, that's strong beer time. Stark in German translates into strong in English. It refers to a specific type of Lenten beer, Doppelbock, most of us would call it here in the States. Alschanks, they call it in Germany. But this type of beer is very, very malty. And the strong part refers to it makes you strong, like Wonder Bread builds strong bodies 12 ways. It is stronger in terms of alcohol as well, but that's not really where the name comes from. So in the late 1500s, when this style of beer was developed, the monks ate no solid food at all during all of Lent. So they kept themselves sustained by drinking this style of beer. And the original was brewed by Polliner, and it was named Salvator, Savior in Latin. The brewmaster's name was Brother Barnabas, and to this day they celebrate a 17-day Stark Bierzeit strong beer festival in Munich. it's like Oktoberfest, but it's all indoors and it's distributed across the 6 breweries. Instead of being all in one fairgrounds, it's at the individual breweries, but the same bands play, the same atmosphere prevails. It's a great time. And really, for somebody who would like to go over and experience the beer culture in Munich, it's a great time to go without the crowds and as many foreigners, so you get a very authentic experience. But this experience here today is about as authentic as you can get, because you have so many different styles of beer, using American hops, some using imported hops, but we have everything from very hoppy IPAs to some malty lagers, and there are some nice stouts that I've seen. I just wish I'd had an opportunity to taste more of them before we sat down to chat, but I will get there, I promise.
We have kind of been the same way, where we've been busy, getting things set up and, taking care of business. We've only had an opportunity to have 3 or 4 beers ourselves. The ones that we have had have been fantastic. But we're in the same boat, so we might have to do a walk around together later on.
That works for me. I'll join you.
But what we've seen is there is a huge variety of flavors, a huge variety of styles, and you're going to get that with that Homebrew Fest, because everybody brews what they like. And everybody likes something different. And that's the beautiful thing about the Homebrew Fest rather than a regular brew fest, where there are a lot of opportunities for breweries to just brew what's hot right now.
Sure.
But this is a little bit different because this is what the brewer likes. For example, Steve, he is an IPA guy. I am not. So the beers that we brought, he brought an IPA, I brought a wheat beer. And you would have probably a lot less
So you're
variety.
pouring today as well?
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
yes.
yeah. We're around. You can find us. We'll point you in the direction of our table.
Yes.
I have a feeling you might be a bigger fan of what Adam's brought today.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
I don't run scared of IBUs. So.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see how it works out. You try them both, and you let us know what you like. But I just want to confirm we're moving away from the homebrew just for a second.
Sure.
You're a fan of the Troganator, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I needed to confirm. You've been talking about strong German beers and Doppelbocks. I was like, yeah.
Well, so I think my favorite from my time in the old country is a beer and there are several that are made there, and I haven't tasted any that I didn't like, but they're brewed at a monastery in a town called Andechs. Andechs is about 45 kilometers southwest of Munich. Went there on public transportation. The Germans refer to it as the Heilige Berg, the Holy Mountain. Monastery sits up on a hill. It's a Benedictine monastery. They have a small 15-room hotel and a couple of restaurants. They've been brewing beer there for, well, one estimate that I saw indicated that they had begun in 1016. There are debates in Bavaria as to who the oldest brewer is. This is one that makes that claim.
Right.
They also brew or distill schnapps there, 7 kinds of schnapps and 6 different kinds of beer. Their Doppelbock is wonderful. They have a full beer, which is very, very nice. They also make a Dunkel Weissbier. It is available in Pittsburgh. The only place that I know that carries it is East End Beer Distributing. Was old Kassenix down on the north side. And it is on tap at Teutonia Manor Corps, the German club on the north side.
Okay.
In fact, last weekend, there was a Maifest down at that club, and they did open their doors to the public. They can't do that on a regular basis, but they did last weekend. And they tapped a keg of Bergbock, which is a Maibach beer brewed by Andechs. Very, very nice. So I like those, but, I quite enjoy a West Coast IPA. I like a New England style IPA. Haze doesn't scare me.
Right on.
So my beer taste is pretty eclectic, but I probably drink more lagers than ales.
So that's good to hear. That's good to hear that you enjoy every style, but you have your favorites. So
sure.
Now that you've explained that you're a fan of the old world styles and you've spent time there, I wonder if you could do a favor for me. There's the big long word representing German
Gemütlichkeit.
Thank you. It's a word I cannot ever pronounce for some reason. but I like to hear it when it can come out right.
So what I'm hearing is we're going to take that little snippet, and every time we need to use it on the show,
That's right,
we're just going to insert it in.
And it's a feeling. It doesn't really translate directly into English, communicate, but it is the warm feeling that you have when you are with friends, typically drinking some beer and just having a good time. Some people translate it as to here's mud in your eye, but it really doesn't translate directly that way. Let the good times roll, but it's not les le bon temps roulé. It really is its own thing that doesn't have a direct English equivalent. But when you feel it, you know what it is.
I'll be honest, I could probably just talk beer with you all day, Bob. I'll be perfectly honest.
So the thing that struck me most, though, about this festival is the people. Not just the brewers, but the people who have come in and have been sampling their wares here this afternoon and early this evening. It's just a great group of people. We haven't had one speck of trouble. At a venue like this, we host many, many events. We had 500 high schoolers in here last night for a prom from Norwin High School up in our building. There's a wedding in the building this afternoon.
Oh, okay.
There's a gun bash that we will be hosting the third Saturday in June. I guess it's actually the fourth Saturday in June this year because June works so early, but it's June 22nd. That event draws thousands of people, and there's a lot of beer drunk that day. We typically don't run into problems here in general, but this has been a very, very nice and friendly crowd. Mm-hmm. I'd say well-behaved, but that sort of goes without saying. But the people are pleasant. They all seem to be having a good time, and the people who are making these beers are some of the nicest people I've run across.
Yes. And that's something that I've come across with the Homebrew Fest is the people that are here that are on both sides of the table, chances are they've been, to the edge and a little bit further, so they know where their limits are, and they know we don't have to go there right now.
Right.
And that's always a nice change of pace from other beer fests that I've been to where it's 10 tenths. Don't need to do that here.
And so much to taste here today. So many different styles that are available. Every particular category doesn't run very, very, very deep, but in any category that you can think of, we do have entries here today. Mm-hmm. And there are several in most of those categories, and a lot in some of that. I looked at the table for sour beers, and that was pretty heavy.
Yeah, sour is a hot thing right now. So
it is indeed.
All right, well, Bob, I want to thank you again for having us out to this event.
Yes.
I want to thank you for hosting it. I want to thank you for giving homebrewers a space to, show off their wares as we've been talking.
And we thank you for the opportunity to get the word out to your listeners.
Absolutely.
And we hope you make your plans to be here next year. The tentative date is May 9th next year, 2020.
Okay.
So it's the same weekend. It'll be the day before Mother's Day next year, right here at the Pavilion at Sirius Shrine Center for the 4th annual North Hills Homebrew Fest.
And we will be here in some capacity.
If we didn't do everything digitally, I would pencil it in.
Yes.
We'll look forward to seeing you again, and we'll look forward to hosting this event again.
Awesome. We will see you then.
Gentlemen.
Thank you, Bob. And we're going to take a quick break. We will be back for segment 2 here on the Hop Nation USA podcast.
Live from the North Hills Homebrew Fest.
First Sip Brew Box is a one-of-a-kind subscription service for craft beer lovers based right here in Pittsburgh. Every month, First Sip will send you a box full of craft beer enthusiast essentials, including t-shirts, glassware, and even food. Right now, our friends at First Sip Brew Box have an offer for you. Just sign up for a 3-month subscription and get your 4th month free. Just enter the code HOPUSA when you sign up at firstsipbrewbox.com. That's HOPUSA at checkout to get your 4th month free at firstsipbrewbox.com.
Welcome back to episode 107 of the Hop Nation USA podcast. We're still here live at the North Hills Homebrew Festival at the Sirius Shrine. We are joined by a new guest, but before we get to our new guest, we have new beers.
Yes, we do. We have new beers that we're going to drink. This beer that I have here in front of me is actually a little bit different from what you would expect if you've listened to the show previously. This is actually a New England IPA. This is a beer that was recommended to me by a fellow participant, a friend of mine. He said, go grab this one. This is a good one to go try. So this is, I believe, the Hot Buster by one of our fellow homebrewers. I got to tell you, it's pretty good. I like it.
And I'm drinking something from a real friend, Tom Wagner.
A real friend?
Real friend. I mean, you just kind of know the person who brewed that.
But I know who recommended it.
Okay, fair enough. But Tom Wagner, friend of the show, you can see him on episodes of Yin's Brewing on MCA TV. But I'm drinking his key lime pie.
I had that beer earlier.
Yeah, boy oh boy, that's 2 key lime pie beers this episode because we had one from Brian in the first segment.
Yes,
but now I have this one from Tom, and they're in a tight race with each other.
They both have made fantastic beers, that's for sure.
Indeed.
So Brendan, I see that you've got something in your glass. Do you have any idea what you're drinking right now?
Well, it turns out it's a number 9. I don't know what number 9 is, and I figured you were going to ask, so I just had to take a sip. And what I have to say is it's just an outstanding beer. It's a light lager. I'd probably describe it as pretty much an American lager style beer. And I have not had a bad beer here at all today. It's been phenomenal. Everything and it goes from the unexpected, like a white stout, which is just amazing how you have a clear white stout, no color, all the stout flavor, to you name it, ginger beers and everything in between, and nothing's been over the top in your face. It's just been delicious, all around delicious beer.
That new voice that you've heard is from Brendan, and he joins us from CNC Malt, which is a craft maltster out of Butler, PA. You may have heard us mention them in previous episodes. I know Abjuration brought them up on episode 100. So, Brendan, why don't you introduce us and tell us everything that you do at CNC Malt?
Well, I guess the main thing we do is a lot of shoveling. And shovel. So malt is it's a beautiful thing. It's a soul of beer, and it really is. It's alive, it's breathing, it smells different whether it's happy or not. So it's all about smell, taste, and feel. So there's kind of 3 processes to malting. The first is steeping, and if you ever remember being a little kid growing tomato plants with your grandma, you take your seeds and soak them in water in a teacup for about a day or so, then you spread them out on a paper towel, get them to grow, then you put them in the ground. Well, we kind of do the same thing, except for we don't put them in the ground. We soak grains in water, get them to hydrate, then we spread them out on the concrete floor, get them to start sprouting. And then instead of growing, we want to preserve all the starches and sugar and alcohol potential for the brewer, so we kiln it. So we dry it out with some heat, and that pretty much stops everything, preserves it, and that gives a good packaged little product for the brewers to make beer with. So that's kind of the short of what we do.
Right on. So I gotta ask, when you have gotten into the beer business, you've kind of gotten in on the front end. Typically, there's a lot of folks that get in on the back end, whether it's the brewing, the marketing, opening a tap house, things like that. How did you get involved on the malt side of things to get down into the building blocks of beer? How did you get started on that?
There was an aha moment for me. So I had a very lucrative job, oil and gas, and I decided to leave that because I couldn't really remember what my kids looked like. I was on the road all the time, and I had to move back to Colorado. I chose not to make that move. And I have been homebrewing since I've been about 14. And obviously that's before you could drink.
Right.
So it's just been a passion of mine, and beer, that is. And I have a lot of brewing equipment. I was searching for the final piece, which was a mill. I've been searching for a mill until not yesterday. 3 days ago, I got my first mill.
Okay.
Real mill, like a 5-horse mill.
Oh, okay. We're talking some real stuff here.
So while searching for a mill, I came across some malting equipment, and I said, oh, that'd be cool. I could malt my own malt and brew beer, and that'll give me some more levers and knobs and dials I could play with, kind of fine-tune the flavors I want. Give them a little more to the story, a reason for people to come visit my brewery. And I thought, well, I need to try some Pennsylvania malt in the meantime. So I started searching for Pennsylvania malt, and at that point in time, there was not a single maltster in Pennsylvania. So I said, aha, I'll make malt. I could visit all the breweries, taste all the beer, go home at the end of the day. Little I know, you don't go home at the end of the day. You go back to the malt house and shovel malt some more. So that's how I got down the road. But I love it. It's something I never would have thought of at 14 when I was growing my own hops, culturing my own yeast, and doing everything but malting. It just seemed that malt was cheap enough and abundant enough. I didn't have to mess with it. So I'm glad I went that route, because it really is a very unique aspect of brewing that's very much overlooked these days, with hops being the very sexy ingredient. Malt is kind of in the background, but plays such a strong role. It's
I like to think that malt is kind of the foundation of beer. That helps to build things up, because obviously without the malt, you're not going to have the hop. It's not going to do anything for you. So explain how big is your operation? Or on the grain side of things, do you grow the grains as well? Do you have it brought in to start the malting process? How does that work?
So, yeah, there's a few questions there. So, as far as our operations side, we're currently malting on a pilot scale only. So, we do about 200 pounds a batch, but we steep, germ, and kiln separately, as they're 3 separate processes. So, that puts us about 1,400 pounds a week. So, we're always rolling the process along. We are scaling up to a 5-ton system. So, that'll give us the ability to do 5 tons a day. So that's quite a bit more capacity. As far as the agronomics of it all, we don't farm ourselves. We have the ability to play around a little with some heirloom varieties. So it's very interesting. You could get any variety you like from a seed bank and plant a handful of seeds in your backyard, and then harvest those seeds, send back to your 5 grams to the seed bank. And you do it again and again and again until you have enough to plant. And so we're tinkering with playing around with that idea to take back some flavors that have been lost to time. But for the most part, we work with farmers, and we'll specify varieties, malting varieties for them to plant. Malting barley is a new crop to the farms in the area, but it's a very advantageous crop, because they could double crop, meaning they could do a fall and spring planting, and so they get 2 crops off the ground in one season. So they could do oats and barley, oats and beans, whatever it is they're growing. It's good for the farmers. But we'll explain to them the challenges, what we need to make good malt for good beer, and kind of give them some advice, but let them run their program as they see fit.
Right on. So is CNC more on the commercial side, or is it more on the homebrew side? Which side do you see more?
So a bit of both, but mostly professional brewers.
Okay.
So home brewers, we love home brewers, and it's the ultimate experiment area. So they're very excited about using the product, and they will try new things, and we could try new things too. And it's the ultimate one-off. They could take it and brew a batch of beer, and it's kind of a thumbs up, thumbs down, whether they like it or not.
Right.
Doesn't mean the general public likes it or not. But
so that brings up a follow-up question of, are you seeing any trends on the malt side? Is there something that, because you're obviously on the cutting edge, because you're one of the building blocks, is there anything that you're seeing that breweries are starting to get into or revisit in these times? Is there something new or something what's going on? That's the question. What's going on?
I'd say there's the obvious that hazy IPAs and oats supporting the hazy IPAs, giving some backbone, and some flavors that would be mistaken for hops actually come from oats. So some floral kind of flavors. Oats really do a lot. They're quite an interesting grain, and I like them a lot. They're light and easy to shovel. So they're a good thing.
Everybody wins with those.
Right. So, of course, hazy IPAs aren't really a surprise, but I would say I really think lighter beers, Kolsch's and Pilsners, lagers, I think are seeing a resurgence. And it's really hard to put your thumb on it, but put it this way. I remember when I was homebrewing, probably at 18, I had a good hop crop.
Okay.
And I hopped a beer so much that it wouldn't ferment. So,
man.
I mean, it was over hopped. And I feel like we've kind of done that as a society. We backed off a little. And you're seeing that with the hazy, juicy New England IPAs. We're starting to appreciate the floral aspects of subtleties rather than the in-your-face, punch-in-the-nose hops. And after all that, though, you kind of settle back onto a good, very drinkable kind of beer.
Okay.
And I'm seeing a lot of breweries head that way. And as I look across the table, all three of us have light-colored beers anyway.
Yes.
Yeah. Different styles, but like color, yeah.
Different styles, yeah. But very light, very drinkable beers. So
Right on.
that's key. I guess the last thing on the what's new and exciting would be heirloom varieties.
Okay.
So old is new, and people love spelts. They love einkorn. They love stuff that may or may not malt well. So einkorn is a horrible one. Spelts are awesome. Spelts are really, really awesome in the beers. It's amazing the melon kind of flavors and stuff that come out of those heirloom varieties.
Right on.
So I got a two-part question. For you. Obviously, you said you're a home brewer, and now you're doing malts. So what is your favorite malt that you've been producing as CNC? What is your favorite beer that you've made with that? And just kind of give an idea to the audience what they should be looking to come to you for.
Well, I haven't had a time to brew since I had kids. So we make other liquors, ciders and such. But as far as brewing, it's a full day, especially all grain, and especially if you're malting it first. But our favorite malt came out of necessity. It's a brew malt, so a melanoid and honey malt kind of malt. And I hate to call it a honey malt because I don't really like sweetened beers. But what happened, we had a power failure. If you remember back in October, November, we had that huge ice storm, knocked out the power for about a week.
Yep.
I just loaded the kiln when the power went out. Slept there all night. It came on 2 a.m, enough to cool it down a little because stuff really heats up in the kiln if it doesn't have airflow. So we dumped it out of the kiln, sealed it up. And then you have a huge temperature spike. You get up to about 150 degrees. That makes sugars and stuff inside the grain. So you could actually mash inside the grain of barley versus mashing in a mash tune. Mm-hmm. So essentially we mashed in the grain, then oxygen was depleted and it crashed. And so you have some sweetness, but then you have some anaerobic activities take over and you have some sour. So it's like a sweet and sour kind of malt. And it is just phenomenal. I could eat that all day. I haven't brewed with it. There's several beers out there with the brew malt in it, and they are all good, phenomenal. I'd like to see more of it in there. So I'd say brew malt's my favorite malt. And so I really can't rightly answer the question as what's my favorite brew because I haven't brewed. So.
Right on. Okay, so maybe what was your favorite brew when you were still brewing?
Ooh, well, that goes back, probably it goes back to what I passed out today was an under-modified Pilsner for everyone to make a true Czech Pilsner, true Bohemian lager with. And I remember getting, when St. Pat's out of Texas, when they weren't assholes, like, can we say assholes?
Yeah, go ahead. That's fine.
Yeah, so when before they got their head in the clouds, they used to sell to everybody. And I remember getting Budvar malt from Budvar, Czechoslovakia. It was an under-modified malt, and that was back in the 90s. And you could buy it at a semi-reasonable price then. And making a good, it was a decoction mash you had to do. It was good Czech Pilsner. And that was probably one of the better beers I ever made. And next to that would be a coffee stout, but the story's not as cool on that one. So it ended up sour. So sour, maybe it'd be cool these days. It's sour
That's
coffee
right.
stout.
You just got to wait for the right trend
That's
to come
right,
by.
that's right.
Then you pounce. So are there any local breweries that use your malt? Where could we find your malt in action?
So here, as we get closer to Pittsburgh, we have 4 points south of the city, Butler Brew Works north of the city, so we're kind of surrounded there. Those are the two breweries that pretty much use us consistently. There's a good 20 or 30 breweries that'll use us off and on. So usually around harvest time, it's almost easy to find us because people want to do an all PA beer. So Spoonwood's done a very nice American lager. Couch Brewer's done a few nice. The good folks at Insurrection did a really neat deal with our spelt. Man, we had problems with that, yeah. But they worked through it and we worked through it, and so hopefully when we get the spelt de-hold, we'll have that key unlocked.
Nice.
We are an international podcast. Anybody outside of PA that's really comes to mind?
We do a lot of contract malting for farmers in Ohio, so they'll bring us our grain and they go and market under their own label. In Montana, we did a really fun project with Madison River Brewing, and it was a smoked porter where we did some applewood smoked on our malt. So our trees are old growth apple trees. We say they're planted by Johnny Appleseed. Whether that's true or not, who knows? But it was an applewood rye smoked porter, and man, that beer was delicious.
Nice.
Awesome. So the other thing I know about CNC is that you guys are part of the Craft Malters Guild. And can you talk a little bit about what that is and like how you came to be a part of it and what that guild does for you?
Oh, the guild has been a tremendous resource for us. It's a great group. So they have all sorts of resources for aspiring maltsters. It's online, craftmaltstersguild.com. I'd imagine it's a website. But
that sounds about
the way
right.
we got involved, we went up to Headley, Massachusetts, and up there's Valley Malting. And they were one of the first 2-3 malt houses in the U.S. And Christian Stanley and his wife, they started the malt house and really gave us a lot of good advice and got us started in malting. They've since turned over the guild to management by a board of directors, and they're doing a fine job with it. But it's a tremendous resource for anyone interested in malting. As well, I'd like to point out there's a gentleman who puts on, I don't know if it'd be a podcast or what it'd be, but it's called Brewing the Hard Way. It's a good resource to look up about malting if you want to try malting in your backyard in the kitchen. And I really recommend anyone who's interested in malt to do so.
Okay.
Because it really allows you to unlock a lot of flavors and gives you a whole another element of control that you don't have otherwise in brewing.
Nice.
And I guess along that line, if we look back historically, you would have never had a brewery without a malt house pre-Prohibition, or at least a malt house close by. Mm-hmm. They were two aspects of the industry that were married. And then post-Prohibition, things got all kinds of quirky and topsy-turvy and industrialized. So when I started this business, there was probably about 30 malt houses in the world. Now there's well over 100 craft malt houses in the U.S. alone.
Wow.
Let alone the world. So it's a very fast-growing segment of the industry, and it's really unlocking a lot of doors and flavor potentials for brewers worldwide.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, especially because, again, you're a local business, and I know a lot of the small breweries, obviously, they're local businesses. They like supporting local business. So now that they have somebody on the front end to give to them, give them ingredients, they want to support them.
Right.
Just the same they would with a hop farm like Sorgel's.
Right. A small business supports small business. That's all there is to it, and it's a beautiful thing.
I just want to give you another chance, Brendan, just to get your word out, like anything coming up that you want to talk about, website, how people can find you. Can they just come right up to Butler? Can they stop at your doorstop and just start picking up malts?
Absolutely. So I'm an old-fashioned kind of person. If you give me a call or knock on the door, I'd be more than happy to talk to you. My wife's taken over the social media aspect of it. and done a phenomenal job. I hadn't been on Facebook since 2004. I had to kind of figure out how to get on there again and just give her the password pretty much.
You're one of the smart ones.
We do post pictures on social media and all that good stuff to kind of show you what we're up to. But the best really is give me a call and stop up and just come smell it, because, man, it smells good walking through the place.
Hey, your website's just cncmalt.com?
Yes, sir. You got it.
Okay.
All right, cool.
All right. Yeah, we're gonna have to give you a phone call, stop in, and smell some things.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I know we also got a bag of that unmodified Pilsner.
Yes,
malt, so we'll try to brew it. We'll see if we're not decoction brewers. We're very lazy.
That's
but
right.
we'll try it out for once and then
Well, you gotta
tell you
do
how
it.
it goes.
That was intentional. Make you all work. Appreciate a well-modified malt. So
Fair.
That's fair.
More steps.
So we're going to take a quick break. Reddit, thank you for coming on the show. I greatly appreciate it. We're probably going to talk a little bit more once we shut down the operation. So we'll be right back with the third segment of Hop Nation USA live at the North Hills Homebrew Fest. We'll be back.
I'm Don Wrinkle, and everybody's got a podcast. And if you're gonna listen to one, Import Taste is the way to go, because it's very greasy.
This is Bill Lawyerson to tell you that Import Taste is the podcast you should listen to if you want to get sued.
I'm Big Jim, here to say if you listen to Import Taste, guess we'll give you a Christmas handy.
It's in poor taste. It's definitely not a comedy podcast. And it's definitely not educational. And it's definitely Australian. Stop asking!
Hello, I'm a Giorgio Casadoro, and this is my brother.
Fativa.
Come on down, Import Taste. We're taking back and polish your jewels.
That's us.
South Hills, Pittsburgh.
Born and raised.
Listen to Import Taste on the Podsberg Network. www.podsberg.com/importtaste for all of your edutainment podcast needs.
If you guys said they were fun.
Welcome back to episode 107 of the Hop Nation USA podcast. We're here, segment 3. We're still live at the North Hills Homebrew Fest at the Syria Shrine. And now it's time we actually talk to some brewers. We've been talking to a lot of people all day. It's time we actually talk to some brewers. Right now, we're joined by Jake and Josh. They're both home brewers, but I'm going to get them time to actually explain more about their brewing operations, because they're from different brewing operations, and the beers that they brought with them today. So,
Yes.
Jake, why don't you start us off? Introduce yourself. What kind of beers have you brought, and the name of your brewery?
Yes, my name is Jacob Pyle. I'm coming from Wellsburg, West Virginia, about 15 minutes north of Wheeling. And I brought with me today Papal Maple, which is a dark amber maple beer, brewed with locally sourced maple syrup, maple sugar, and then aged on bourbon-soaked vanilla beans. And then also Totes Magotes, my French Saison, which was brewed with heather, chamomile, and hibiscus. And then the brewer we have is Critical Mash Brewing.
Right on. And Josh, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, Josh Wilhelm, Creekside Craft Beers. Brew with my buddy Sam. We brought 6 beers here tonight. We have 2. Yeah, we got 2 kettle sours. One is a kettle soured New England IPA, brewed with Citra hops, our Anaconda Sniper line. We got our Juice Box Generation line that we have. This version is made with blueberry and peach, fruited lactose sour style beer. We brought our house New England pale ale called Mosaic Waters. This version we did with Galaxy hops, so little Mosaic, little Galaxy. We brought our Pilsner line we call Volk beer. This version of that is made with Eureka hops, so a little twist on the German Pilsner with American hops kind of thing. We brought Vernal Obliterator, so it's a Maibach. And then we brought Alternate Endings, which is our alt beer.
Right on.
So I guess I just wanted to start asking you guys questions about, like, how long have both of you been brewing?
So I have been at it. This is Josh from Creekside. I've been at it for about 10 or 12 years.
And I've been going about 7 years myself.
Awesome.
Okay.
I can tell you, I can vouch for both of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So right now, I'm drinking the Papal Maple.
Yes.
That's a fantastic beer. That's got a lot of maple flavor in it. It's excellent. I'm loving it.
Absolutely. I had that earlier in the show.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons that you got that beer.
Yeah.
Because I said you need to go get this beer.
Right, exactly. It was Adam's suggestion. But I also had the Anaconda Sniper from Creekside.
I have not had that one yet.
I don't know how much you'll like it because it does have a good bit of hoppiness to it.
So they also have a good sour series, which I might go over and grab some of those.
Yeah. So it's worth it. Josh was telling me before we got on mic, though, that we actually have had some of their beers before already. Not
Really?
you, but me.
Oh, okay. How so?
I guess when I said me, it was me and Dennis.
Oh,
but,
okay.
But I'll let Josh tell him.
Yeah, so last June at the first annual Oakmont Yacht Club Beer Fest, Sam and I picked up the Brewer for a Day award, the grand prize award with and brewed with Hop Farm. So as part of that, our beer won. It was the smoked sour, so the Bandit, Lichtenhainer, and actually a keg of it made it to the Pittsburgh Beer Fest down at the convention center.
You are the ones that made that.
Yeah, so
Son of a
so it was a
bitch.
collaboration with Hop Farm. Yeah.
Okay, because I heard about that beer.
Yeah.
And I was super jealous that I didn't get to drink it. I did not know that. That is fantastic.
Yeah. So maybe we'll have to whip up another batch and make sure you get some of it.
I am totally down for that. You just let me know when and where.
Adam's own.
Yeah, I'm into that.
Yeah. So, Jake, I wanted to ask you a couple questions. We've noticed, and we've been talking a lot about it on the show, because we also try beers from all over the 50 states. We try to try beers from everywhere. But we noticed West Virginia is a little lacking as craft brewers. Is your goal to open a brewery on your own or add to that? Because I think there's only like 32 craft breweries in West Virginia right now.
Yeah, so the market in West Virginia is definitely lacking. It hasn't quite caught on. We're definitely a blue collar state. People love their $2 pints and their I'm going to get blitz on game night days. But that's definitely changing. We got a lot of great excitement happening. You have Greenbrier Brewing. You have Berkeley Springs Brewing, which has a lot of great beer out of there. And just overall, I mean, it's starting to grow, but it's going to take some time. We're a little bit behind on everybody else, but with the markets in Pittsburgh here growing as fast as they are, and Columbus growing as quickly as it is, it's only a matter of time before West Virginia starts. I personally got my buzz from brewing when I lived out in Washington near Seattle. In fact, if you weren't home brewing out there, you're in the minority.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different. And that's where I got it from, and I brought it back with me, and I'm just trying to spread it as fast as I can and as much as I can to everybody else. As far as
you're doing
opening
good
a
work
brewery,
so far. I can tell you that.
Well, thank you. It's but as far as opening a brewery, I would love to. There's nothing more than I would love to do than have my own brewery and run my own place. It's a little bit scary in this market right now, as we've talked about. West Virginia is kind of smaller, so there's a lot of opportunity. I just don't know if the market's right just now. And everyone keeps talking about the craft beer, or the burst of the bubble, which I don't quite see happening as long as we keep producing great beer. But it's just a matter of waiting for the time to be right in West Virginia before we go ahead and open something up. Right now, I'm just having a lot of fun making great beer and giving it away to as many people as I possibly can. And just, even though I don't own a brewery, it's still nice introducing people to good beer and teaching them there's something else out there.
Josh, do you have similar goals?
Yeah, I mean, we've obviously we've talked about it and dreamt about it. I mean, I think the first time you make a beer that you have and you're like, holy crap, like I would pay money for that beer. You're like, shit, I could do this for real. And I mean, it's a balance between, life and like he said, the market. I mean, I'm with him. I don't think the bubble bursts if you're a small town brewer. I mean, I think if you try to go outside of your local town, maybe things get a little more difficult for you if you try to go big in scale. But I mean, I don't think we have any serious aspirations. We're certainly not buying property or anything like that at this point, but it still remains a dream for sure.
Absolutely. And if you guys keep brewing beers the way you do, I'm waiting for the day you guys both open up your own respective breweries. That's all there is to it. You guys make some damn fine beer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, I think both Adam and I would agree when, you guys are saying, like, the bubble's not going to burst. I think we agree with the same thing, is that we're only seeing large-scale breweries right now that are super affected by it, and they have to scale back. They can't be shipping to all 50 states. But everybody who's hyper-local, they're thriving.
Yeah, I mean, they're either doing okay, or you have the combating of the big companies, if you will, with the recent merger of Dogfish Head and Sam Adams, right? I mean, they're putting their chips on the table, going all in against the big guys to keep themselves competitive and bring that scale up a little bit. So, I mean, I think that's really what you'll see. I don't know that it'll necessarily be a bubble burst. I think as long as you make good beer and you focus on the people that got you to where you're at, I think you'll be okay. But if the beer's mediocre, you're probably going to see those people fade out as the time goes on, for sure.
That's something where the customer will be right, because they're just not going to go there anymore.
Right.
And you're just going to shut down. But if you have good beer, the people will come, and they will generate that buzz, and you'll be able to gain that traction that you'll need, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, definitely a good thing, especially considering how inventive and creative everybody is being in the market, whether you're a craft brewer or a home brewer. So, I think that inventiveness and creativity is important. So, we've already talked about how creative some of the beers you guys have brought today. What's the most creative brew that you would say that you've brewed, though? Or do you have a batch that maybe you pushed the limit too far?
I'm sure I've pushed the limit too far. I mean, I've never had to dump a beer, thankfully. If there would, I'd definitely knock on it. Thankfully, I haven't had to dump a beer yet. I've definitely pushed some limits. In fact, my very first competition just happened to be this last National Homebrew competition. And I did a Saison, and I normally do, but I went a little bit further. So I did a Belgian Saison, and I put rosemary, sage, and thyme in it with some lemon zest. And that used to be a kind of a crowd pleaser, but I wasn't quite happy with that. So I even went further this time, and I, after it fully matured and you deal with the whole Belgian Saison yeast problem as far as bringing up the temp and pulling down the temp, I went as far as to put it on Brett for about a year and a half, let it soak on that, but also put it on Cab Sav oak and see how that turned out. And it was a very complicated flavor. There was a lot of flavor, a lot of I'd love to say complexity. That's kind of a buzzword, obviously, among craft brew, and everybody wants to say their beer is complex. It was almost, and even some of the feedback I got back was almost convoluted because there were so many different flavors. Thankfully, it worked for the most part. I ended up doing pretty good in the competition. No gold medal, obviously, but for my first competition, I was pretty content with where I ended up, and. But a lot went on with that beer. A lot of different things. I have about 8 different grains in that. Of course, like I said, 4 different herbs and fruits in there, and then of course the Brett and the oak. So a lot went into it, and whereas I really enjoyed doing it to make that regularly, especially with a year and a half maturity period, it gets to be a little bit too much, and you really enjoy the simplistic beers.
Right on.
Yeah, I mean, to me, your questions, it's very complex and it's tough to answer. I mean, creativity comes in multiple different ways of thinking of things, right? I mean, to me, the creativity is reading the crowd, reading the judging group, and trying to make things that you think are going to be well received at a competition and in the market, right? So we try to simplify our beers. When we get creative, we try to keep things simple, not get too complex with the things we do. I mean, we make the kettle sours and we add the fruit, but we're keeping those beers simple at their core so that they can be adapted and altered to meet the market we're serving, whether it be, for example, the Oakmont Beer Fest. We selected that smoked sour knowing Hop Farm was going to be the brewery that was judging, and knowing those guys well enough just from going in there.
Well played.
To know that this was in their wheelhouse, right? If there was a beer of ours that they were going to pick, this one was going to stand out. So to me, that's where I see the creativity in brewing.
All right, so I got one last question for you guys, and I just want to know, when you're not brewing, what are you drinking?
Local craft, generally. If I'm not drinking my own homebrew, I'm drinking probably, honestly, Hitchhiker's probably the most frequented brewery by me.
Right on.
It's usually something local, something different. That's the biggest thing. There's so many beers out there, and got to try them all.
Well, go ahead and give yourselves a plug for wherever people can find you next. If you guys have events coming up, or just a place that you're going to be serving beer, maybe. Yeah.
So I can be found on Facebook under or if you look, search Critical Match Brewing, and basically wherever the Three Rivers Alliance of Serious Homebrewers are going, that's pretty much where you're going to find me.
Right on.
Yeah, Creekside Craft Beers. We're on Instagram and Twitter. We usually put on there when we're going to be serving. I know the next one we have coming up is the Oakmont Beer Fest. They're going to do it again this year, so we're looking forward to that. I think Leaning Cask is going to be the brewery that gives up the Brewer for the Day award this year, so we're looking forward to being down there.
Okay.
Right on. Well, usually on this show we go to a podium and we rank a whole bunch of beers against each other.
Can't do it today.
Can't do it on this episode. I'm sorry, we're breaking from format.
That's
We've
okay.
had too many good beers. It's unfair to judge. So we'll just say, if you want to find us on social media, all you have to do is search Hop Nation USA, and that'll get you Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And if you want to listen to brand new episodes of Hop Nation USA podcast every Friday, as you should, then search Hop Nation USA on your favorite podcatcher, including Stitcher, Podbean, Google Music Play, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And if you're on any of those platforms, leave us a 5-star review, because
we are a 6-star show, but they only let us use 5.
And that's a bigger crime than this show wasting all my time, so I can't drink as much beer as I wanted to.
No kidding.
God damn it. So
so let's stop.
Yeah, let's stop the show, and then we'll go get some beer.
Yes. So thank you, Hop Nation. Thank you, everybody that was on the show. Jake, Josh, thank you very much for taking the time out of serving.
Thank you for having us.
To talk
Thank
beer.
you very much for having us up here.
Y'all make some good beers. Hop Nation, we'll see you next week. Well, you can hear us next week. We'll see you then.
Yeah, we'll be back with Dennis for Memorial Day, and that's what we're doing.
Yes.
108. Bye.